I would imagine we've got lots of different size businesses here, so forgive me if there's anything that you know loads about, but hopefully there'll be something for everyone to learn and take away. And it is quite informal here, so if you have a burning question and you want to interrupt me, just stick your hand up and we can visit that quickly before we move on. It's no problem, I don't mind. Website first marketing strategy, forgotten internal marketing, getting started with PR, and the time versus money versus skills issue. Okay, next slide, please. So branding basics. Basically, a lot of people will think of branding as just the logo. Well, it's not true. There's a lot more to it than that. And within branding identity, it's the perception that people create about your business through all their senses. So, you know, what they see, what they hear, what they experience about your business aids their opinion forming of you. So you've got colour, pretty obvious one. Smell, which isn't always appropriate to a lot of businesses, but you'll find that certain airlines will have a signature scent. Some clothing brands, Abercrombie, if you've ever been in there, they have a very distinctive smell in their stores and on their clothes. And just, you might even find it in some retail stores as well. Shapes, when you're writing adverts, maybe you present them in a way that's always in a circle or always in a square. It sounds really silly, but things like that can help your brand become really recognizable. The font, the way you write anything about your business, the way you actually write the words, so the language you use and how your tone of voice is, and what your style is. So you can see two totally different versions of saying the same thing there. Howdy folks, hello everyone. You'll get some brands that have more younger appeal, a bit quirkier, and they'll use a totally different language to say financial planners that are helping people plan for retirement. You know, a very distinct way of talking to their target audience. Does anyone know what this logo is? That's right. And they've done such a good job of their branding that you will see that in that colour and various other colours. You still know that it's innocent without the rest of it. And that's actually the full logo. But again, they've done such a great job that you'll see that normally on a white background, but all over the packaging and everything else they do some great social media campaigns as well. And slogans. I think everybody probably knows that one. And it's done so well that even slogans can sometimes be written slightly wrong and someone will still be able to gauge what brand that represents. So your identity will be conveyed through all your communications, your business cards, maybe you have a sign written car, shop windows, flyers, websites, advertising, anything that you use to communicate anything about your business to your target markets, suppliers, anyone else. So the rest of the branding is not just the identity, all the things that go with that. Why do we need a brand? Well, perception, what people think about your company, that will happen whether you like it or not, and it will happen either for you or against you. So if you can take control of your presence, and that will enable you to keep it as positive and as targeted as you can by controlling the identity elements. It's really good to set business brand values, how you want to be seen. Maybe if you're a bank, you might want to be seen as trustworthy, secure. But then if you're a luxury clothing brand, you know, you want to that superiority, that extra edge to you. So why are people going to pay more? You project these through two different types of values. Core values, which are those that are needed to operate in your marketplace. As I say, most banks will have trustworthy as one of their values, but then they might have differentiating values, which are the values that make you and your business stand out within that marketplace, something that's a little bit more unique to what you're offering. If you're already in business, I don't know, is anyone just setting up the business or is everyone already trading? Everyone's trading.
I'm just
You're just setting up, okay. So most people will already know their target customer, your ideal customer that you want to attract. But what are their needs? You don't want to present a whole list of features to them, what you think is great about the service or product that you're offering. You actually want to say how your service or product is going to benefit them within whatever they're operating, and if it's for everyday life, if it's within their business, depending on what you are selling. So you must try and remember to remain benefit-led rather than feature-led. You can research your existing customers and your suppliers to gauge opinion, see what people are thinking about you, see if you're working with your target customer type already, or maybe your brand needs a little bit refining because you're not quite getting the right people through the door. And also, is your brand being seen in the right places? You might be approached to place an advert at some stage within a publication that has a huge readership. But if those people aren't the people that are going to buy your service or your product, it's a waste of time, however much of a bargain that advertising space might be. So you really need to think about who your ideal customer type is. You need to position your product or service very carefully within your marketplace. There's always going to be competitors, and you need to make sure that what you're offering is conveyed to them. What's different about you? Why are they going to buy from you rather than someone else that does a similar thing down the road? It may even you may offer a very, very similar product or service, but it might just be about you. Sometimes people buy from people. If they get on with you better than your competitor, you might win that sale. It's not always just about that, but there is lots of things that you can do to make sure that people are more attracted to your business and services than the competitor down the road. You need to make sure that you plan. So set your goals, focus on a few things well, rather than doing everything half-heartedly. You need to make sure that you can try and aim for long-term relationships. Customers that are going to keep coming back to you, suppliers that are going to be willing to help you out at short notice or to do that extra deal for you. You should be brave. As small businesses, you should be brave and bold, because when companies get bigger, all the corporate hierarchy and the policies and the ticking the boxes prevents companies from being able to speak as they might have been when they were small. Innocent are a good example of how they've managed to keep a lot of it. You know, they've got bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're still pretty quirky, you know, still very approachable. That's how you feel about their brand, but it's still quality. Sometimes there's been some incidents where Cadbury's, for example, have bought another brand, Green and Blacks. I think a lot of people weren't too happy about that because they're worried that they're going to change what that brand stands for and how they're going to present themselves. So whilst you're a small business, set those values, and then once you've got them noted down, you can keep that in the core of your business and what you represent as you grow. Remain consistent, but remain clear. You can control how your logo is used. If you're sending it out to people and you're doing a presentation or you're booking some advertising space, then ensure that your business is described in the way you want it to, so that you're using the right tone of voice, the right language, and your branding is representing your business efficiently. David will confirm that tonight I said, oh, actually, can you alter what's written about me a little bit, just so that I was happy with how it was conveyed, but what I was talking about, my experience. There's no harm in doing that. So branding often evolves as well through feedback. You can manage your brand and you can set everything in writing, but you can't really own it because it's a perception. So all your customers will make up their own mind and they'll feel a certain way about your business, and you can only control that to a very certain extent. So essentially the message here is that good branding adds value, which leads to trust, goodwill, and sales. And we all want sales. I believe that for a small business, having a website first strategy is the best step because it makes an excellent platform. Even if you haven't got a physical building, you're not a shop or anything else with an actual physical place where your customers come to, maybe you provide a service instead, then your website can be your front door. Any time or money that's made to drive customers to your website means that your website should be at its very best so that you can try and convert those visitors. Once potential customers are on your website, they're already engaging with you. So your website should enhance your brand and not detract from it. You want to make sure that your website is professional, that it conveys all the values, everything that you want them to know about you, how you operate, what service you're going to provide to them, and how great it's going to be is right there on your website. Make sure that the content's really strong so that you're avoiding people clicking through and bouncing straight away and you're losing them to a competitor. The greatest call to actions, as they say in marketing, which is essentially what you're asking people to do. So if you write an advert, at the bottom it might say, for more information, visit our website or use this code at the checkout or whatever it is. They'll all go to waste if your customers land on your site and it's just substandard. You know, there's spelling mistakes, there's poorly written content, there's broken links, there's features that don't work. It's just the same as presenting yourself. When you go to a meeting, you want to be smart and presentable. Exactly the same for your website. So even if you do have a shop, your targets might be on your website before they come in, maybe to check your opening hours or to see what you've got in stock. Google Analytics is a great tool. I don't know if any of you have the time to use it. It can be quite in-depth, but even if you just use it to find out what pages are working and which aren't, you might have several articles on your site. Maybe some of them are being shared well and they're having lots of readers, but then there might be one that's just not really working for you. You can use Google Analytics to see people that are landing on that page, where they're going, how many visitors it has. Maybe that needs to come off and be replaced by something else. Maybe the keywords that you've placed within that article aren't bringing the right type of traffic. It's worth having a look. I know we're all busy. It's worth having a look every now and then just to try and make sure that your site is attracting the right people to the right parts. So having a website first strategy essentially makes the rest of your marketing more effective. It's a place to direct people to. It stays current and it portrays exactly as you want because you're writing it and you're building it. So your website, think of it as your base camp. You've done that. What's next? You've got a beautiful website. It's all working really nicely and it serves great content to your target market. Content is one of them, and I don't mean blogging. You don't have to blog. Some people do and they're happy and they're great writers and they have lots of things to talk about. But even if you just want to place some content on there as and when time allows, you can use those articles to write about something that has got some keywords in or that's quite topical to bring people to your site, and that will enhance your online presence. So just do it as and when you have time. I'm currently working on this with one of my customers. They've got a website and they've got a blog, and with all good intentions, they were going to blog regularly and about all these different things that were in the news, and it started off well and it dwindled, and now it's just a bit out of date, and to be honest, it's doing them more harm than good. So we're going to transform it away from a blog and make it into a bit more of a content section, and then I'll have a start with a few core articles, and then he can just add them as and when he's got time or when something he feels needs to be discussed. So social media is a great way to share that content. You can share promotions, page links, and share links to other people's articles too, because that demonstrates expertise and understanding, even if it's not from your own voice. Your website will show your brand personality. I did a marketing review recently with a construction client, and the website was very corporate. They seemed very good at what they did, but it was all quite standard for their industry. And when I got there and I was talking to them, they were actually a long-established family business. They did loads of great fun events for charity, and they had real personality. But none of that showed through in their website. There was no pictures of their management team or staff, nothing really about, it has a history section about them, but didn't really say much. You know, use your website to really present the personality, and don't be absent from it. Even if you're a one-man band, like me, you can make sure that your marketing efforts reflect your experience and your credibility. You know, shout about what you've done, all the courses, the qualifications. You know, you don't have to brag about it, but make sure that people know exactly how good you are at what you do. It's not about how big your company is and how many people you may or may not have working for you. You can shine and impress people through your marketing messages. Marketing really has got two core sides. It's been called various things over the years: push and pull, and outbound, inbound, acquisition, retention, all those things. But essentially there's marketing to draw people to you, and there's marketing to put your business out there and showcase and communicate your brand values. So putting your website first, that strategy just makes the rest of your marketing much more effective. I rarely pay to advertise. I generate enough business through my website and through networking and referrals, and I don't actually have content on my website yet. So if you were adding content as well, hopefully that would take you to the next level. This is a nice graphic that I did steal, but it represents and shows quite well how your website will be in the centre of everything you do, and how everything, and there is more than this, other marketing activities will also come back to your website. How you can do things and lead people to more information, the terms and conditions for a promotion or competition page. You do a video and you put it on YouTube, and you've got keywords in there, and you're driving them back through to your website. All these things will come back to the core. Your shop window, your front door, which is your website. Something people forget about marketing is they think it's all outward. It's all about the customers, but it's not just about you and your customers. When you get to the point of working with other people, and that doesn't have to be employees, it could be people you subcontract to or hire as assistants, you should market your company to them. Now, it might not make sense, but when you're a small business, you get quite involved with what's going on, where you want to be, and you store all this information in your head. But as you grow, people often forget to let go of those thoughts. They keep it trapped inside their heads, and so other people that come to work for them, they're not on the same page, and they might not be heading in the same direction. So share information with employees or assistants, your plans, your goals, even some financial information. It doesn't have to be your whole accounts, but there can be ways to share in your own success by, showing, okay, these are our targets, this is what we've brought in this month, okay, these are the areas we're falling down. Just try and be a bit more open, and ensure that your customer knows that sure that they know what your ideal customer is as well as you, so that they're talking to the right people and spending time with people that are going to generate sales and more sales for your business. You'll always have different types of customers. Some that are a little bit more time consuming and maybe don't generate as much profit for you. But then there'll be others, those golden customers, which are just a delight, and they'll keep coming back and have more business. Make sure you give them your time, and make sure anyone that works for you know who they are. It also includes suppliers. People will be surprised, but I think if you work with a supplier, particularly for a long time, you'll develop a good relationship with them, and you can ask them, how do you see us? What do you think we do? To do a little bit of market research with them and reward them. If they're giving you great supply service, you would reward a customer, for their business, long-term, big contracts. Do the same for your suppliers. Really involve all the stakeholders around your business. if you're passionate about your company, then you do find yourselves talking to family and friends about what you do, telling them about what you've got planned and your achievements. Don't forget to do that as you grow, because positive word of mouth is, it's really a golden ticket. So you don't want to stop in case of a friend of a friend. They might want what you offer a little bit later in time. Talked a little bit about the open culture, but try and communicate changes with people that you work with. Ask for ideas, collaborate with people, just set up an open and innovative culture, because it does reap rewards. And I have worked with companies that have been a bit more modern, I guess, and a bit more open and a bit more involved, and they sit down, they really do want ideas from their staff. And sometimes they can see things from being every day or in other positions dealing with customers that you maybe can't, because you set up the business and you're so involved with it and blinded by it that there are things that other people have bright idea about, and you're like, why did I never think of that? So it's worth having those discussions with people, even if they're not an employee, as I say. So with all your internal marketing, you're aiming to create business advocates, people that speak highly of you and people that come back to you and buy from you again and recommend you. So PR does scare people a little bit sometimes, and also PR does confuse people. PR is about reputation. It is about what people are saying about you. It's the result of what you do and what you say. It is a two-way conversation, and advertising isn't. Advertising is a paid-for space that you just place in a magazine, on a website, or whatever it is. There's no engagement there. There's no comment able. PR's usually earned. You normally have a great story. You have developed relationships with journalists, editors, bloggers, or whoever it may be, and they think, yeah, this is a great story. I know that people that read our media title want to read about it, and they publish it. You're not buying that space. You can do advertorials, which is a bit of half and half, really. It's kind of an advert and an article all in one, but you're still paying for that space. Whereas PR is a little bit more out of your control. So I'll give you some tips on writing press releases on the next slide. But PR isn't just about press releases. It also covers social media, events, winning awards. There's so many awards programs out there. There's bound to be something for either for your industry or for small business, or something you can apply for when you've got an achievement down the line. You can get great press from it. News coverage, CSR, which you might not know, but it's corporate social responsibility. Essentially things that you do to care for the environment, do for charity, all those things that make you look good. Lobbying, which a lot of small businesses won't do, but it is included in PR work, and reports, publishing financial reports, market research, etc. With PR, you can't be too self-indulgent. You can't, it sounds harsh, but you can't send a press release into an editor that's me, I've done this, so we do this, we're so great. It's not newsworthy to other people. You have to put yourself on the other foot and think, oh, would I want to read about that? They just hired someone else, great. Unless it's a great hire from another really big company and it is quite a coup, then it's not really of interest to anyone else. So develop relationships with journalists, and that is difficult because you don't always have time. But try and engage with them before and after you're doing a press release. So be a bit social. You may be able to follow the journalist that you think is writing stories about what you want to say on Twitter, and then you could share some of their stories. So they might be aware of you before you're asking them to do something for you. So press releases, just to give you a bit of a rough guide. Has anyone written a press release before? Yeah, okay. sometimes you can write the best press release ever and it may not get coverage. It really is hit and miss. You have to be quite lucky with your timing and do a bit of research. So look at the publication of the website that you're targeting and see who's reading it. You know, what are their audience, and are they going to be interested in your story? Also, importantly, are they your ideal customer? There's no point hounding an editor to write something about you if the people that are going to be reading that story aren't part of your target market. Take the time to find the right person, and ideally their deadlines. Journalists will always have a day where they're going to print, or they're cut-offs if they're printing out. Some of them print overnight and things, but they will say, you know, they'll be busy that day. They've planned the content. They don't really want 100 emails and phone calls. They're too busy. So just give them a call. Say, you know, what's the best day for you to receive news stories? Check your email addresses. Make sure you're getting it to the business editor or to the appropriate editor of where you're writing, where you're approaching. Sorry. So when you write a press release, you need to begin with a summary and then you elaborate further down. Don't try and say everything. They will read the first 2 lines and they'll decide whether they want to read any more, whether they want to publish any more. So keep it quite succinct, really catchy title, and then you can elaborate and expand further on down into the press release. So treat it like a bit of a story, really. If you've written a press release, just you, sit there alone. It's always worth getting someone else to read it over, get a second opinion. Just say, look, read that, and what's the key message that you're getting from that? And then maybe it needs a bit of tweaking, or you need to put something a bit more topical in it to tie it in with a current news story. But it's always good to have someone else give it a read through, and you might need to rephrase a few bits and just make it a bit tighter. Have a clear point of contact on the press release. If an editor will take a press release, they'll never just print it as it is. They'll always want to rework it. They might want to call you up and have a bit more information, or to get some exclusive information, something that's really, really topical, a bit different, very current. So they make the best stories, really. So as a small business, we're all used to doing everything. All the accounts, the business development, contracts, and the marketing. I've learned over time to subcontract. Really, you know, all revenue for a small business counts and you don't really want to spend out. But sometimes it just allows you to focus on what you do best. Then you can grow your business without the financial commitment and legalities that come with actually having an employee. Often a better job is done by a specialist in any particular area. It reduces your research time looking into how to do something. So they can get started quicker and they'll have valuable contacts and information. So sometimes you just need to let go and give a bit of work to somebody else. Take the time to plan what you do, but you can still have flexibility. You can create a PR plan and say, okay, we're going to send a press release out this month, this month, this month. Plan what the topics are going to be, but maybe one of them just becomes irrelevant. Maybe you have something better. You know, it still gives you flexibility, but it puts that note in your calendar to say, okay, look, we must get a press release out this month, or put an advert in, or whatever it is that you need to do. We all know that the quickest thing can end up taking forever sometimes. We can start doing it and then we go off on a tangent and we find something that's going to make it bigger and better, and before we know it, we've spent days on something, and really you should have just given that to someone else, given them the objectives. If that's what their speciality is, then they can be doing that, and you can spend your time on the jobs that are going to either bring in new work for you or you're going to make a bigger profit from. As with any discipline, there's a load of marketing topics. There's a lot to learn. So you can be trained in a ton of marketing areas, but just save the stress. You know, go to an expert, whether it's for design or web development or marketing or whatever it is. You know, you, as I said before, spend your time on what you do best for your business, and then subcontract. Another good way of using your time and your money is to create partnerships and to do exchanges. I used to work in professional sports marketing, and we used to partner with companies to do what they called contra deals. And essentially, they would have advertising in the sports program and on the website and through other marketing activities that we do. But they would get a corporate box at the game. It was basketball, professional basketball. So they would get a corporate box at the game that they could bring and entertain guests and clients, and it was a good exchange. So you can create things like, it doesn't have to be on that scale, but there might be ways that you can partner with other businesses that you can get something you need, they get something they need, but no money's actually exchanging hand. Just make sure that you're doing it on a fair and equal value. So David mentioned briefly about the Growthmatches, which is a programme from the Department of Business Innovation and Skills. I've put a slide in because I'm an approved advisor on the scheme, so I just wanted to make you all aware of it really and see if it's something that your business can benefit from. There's £30 million of funding available for 20,000 businesses, but it's on random allocation, so you can apply just as another business down the road, and there's no real criteria on who will get it. It's just random, so one of you may and one of you may not, but they do say that there's a very high rate of success of allocation, so it is worth a shot. You can get up to £2,000 per voucher, but you have to match it. It's a 50% subsidy, so if you wanted the £2,000, you've got to be willing to spend another £2,000 of your own money. It has to be on strategic advice, and these are the 5 areas: finance, cash flow, recruiting, improving leadership and management skills, marketing, attracting and keeping customers, and making the most of digital technology. So as I say, it is for strategy. So if you're engaging with a consultant, you've got a voucher, you need to spend that on the planning and strategy side, not on the actual activity side, like building a website or something else. That has to come later on. You can apply at this link. You can read more information there, and I think that address is on the flyers as well. On Twitter, there are Growthmatches. Do check your eligibility. There's rules like under 50 employees, you have to be trading for a minimum of 1 year. I'm not sure what the other things are, but have a look if it's something that you're interested in. And as I say, I'm an approved advisor, so if the marketing attracting and keeping customers, if that was something that you were approved for, then I'm one of the people on a massive list that you can use. So just a little bit about me. I established my business in 2009. I partner with other companies and subcontractors to provide full service marketing so that I can offer things like telemarketing and design and web development, things that I don't necessarily do myself. My client base is mostly Sussex, but I have a few further afield. Trained in various marketing things, and I'm a chartered marketer with the CIM. I'm also mentoring marketing students at the moment. I tend to have one at a time, just a bit of work from my CPD hours and giving back. Thank you very much for listening. These are the ways you can contact me. I've got some cards, but I do have mentoring hours available every year. So for my professional development, I can work with businesses for a few hours for free. So if that's something you think you might be interested in, then speak to me about that. And if you just have any questions at any time, just tweet me or email me or whatever, and I'll do my best to help. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Can I try and ask one? Going back to the website first marketing strategy,
Yeah.
can you just chat a little bit about that versus a Facebook first marketing strategy?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that, do you mean alongside a website or just in its own right?
Well, possibly instead of, because I'm helping somebody to start another company, and the first thing they said was get a website done.
Yeah.
They also want to do a Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
And there seems to be so much more that's in the box already with Facebook that they're wanting the website to do. And it made me think, it's just a recent train of thought that I've been going through, why the need for a website at all when they've got a Facebook page.
It's a good question, and yes, Facebook have got a lot better at what they provide for a business page. But what you need to think about is the target audience. Are they going to attract everyone they need, the full demographics, especially if it's older people? A lot of them aren't necessarily on Facebook. Does it require them to be logged in and regularly seeing posts from that company and that business to market themselves? I don't say that a Facebook page is right for all businesses. I think it is more of benefit for consumer products and services rather than business to business. There are some case studies that have proved that wrong, but I would say it probably needs to work in harmony rather than standalone, because you could be cutting off a big chunk of your target market. And, yes, there's great amount in the package, but there will still be limitations with what you can do. Anyone else?
I always find it the problem with blogs, like trying to keep them up to date.
Yeah.
You hear conflicting stories about guest blogging and people do it, and then some people say don't do it. What would you say would be a good process for managing your blog? I mean, is it just down to you, or should you get other people involved?
I don't think there's any harm in getting other people involved, as long as what they're talking about is in line with your key messages. If you're blogging about a certain subject, someone comes on to guest blog and it's just to promote their own business, that's not right. It shouldn't happen. It needs to be in line with what you're already talking about, that bigger subject area. Some people say that guest blogging, even with Google authorship, isn't a great idea. It doesn't really benefit you, but there's mixed opinion on that. So
Google what?
if you're blogging with Google authorship,
What's Google authorship?
when you create, Meg knows a bit about this recently, didn't you? When you create a profile from your Google Plus page, and you get the rich snippets appear in web results. So you search for somebody, and in the first natural result there's a little picture of them against the summary of an article that they've written. To get that there, they need to have the little bit of code from Google authorship in there.
But does that mean you're certified by Google somewhere?
In a way, it's basically saying this person is writing on these sites, and gives it a bit of credibility, but gives it more in the search results.
How important do you think social media actually is? I'm just asking because I had a conversation with this other marketing person who I've been doing some work for, and they said, we were talking about social media, and he said, we just advise our customers just to ignore it and not bother with it. And I was really shocked, and I was like, really? Wow, I can't believe you do that. And you say, it's better use of your time if you just spend an hour phoning up all your customers and then telling them about the special offer or whatever it is you want to tweet about or something. And I just thought, well, I don't have time to do something like that. For me, doing social media is more, it's better for me. But what's your opinion on that?
To be honest, I don't think it can be ignored. I'm very surprised that any marketing consultant or company would say that. I think it needs to be applied in the right way. I think people shouldn't try and do it all and do it all the time. It takes a lot of your time. It consumes you. Twitter, you can spend the whole day on Twitter quite easily and not generate any business from it, but you think it's done you good, engaging in conversation, and maybe it has long term, but it can really eat your time. So take an hour a day, focus on the social media networks that are right for your business, that might be LinkedIn rather than Facebook. You know, it might be Twitter rather than Instagram or something. But you have to look at them each in their own, for their own merits and apply them to your business. But I would say you can't ignore it. Not today. It's not going anywhere. You know, there may be new ones there, and the existing platforms may evolve. But I think that ignore it at your peril, really. Yeah.
You're talking about time versus money, and being a web developer, I'm asked for social networking tools on sites.
Yeah.
And the one I'm working on at the moment must have about 10. It's like the time versus money theory. You're going to use all these social networking sites. How do you measure which one's most effective? Because you can start with 10, maybe you can whittle it down to, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like any marketing, really. You do want to measure your return on investment. You want to know where that customer first heard about you, but people forget. You know, if you're doing a multi-level integrated campaign and you've got adverts here, social media campaigns there, promotions here, people writing about you here, doing a bit of PR. You know, people might have seen you in one or more places. They might have seen you a month ago in one place and then seen you in social media. Where's that point of engagement? You know, where did they first, which bit of marketing first attracted them? It's very hard to track. The tracking tools are getting better on social media, definitely. But there's no guarantee. You can't monitor it effectively enough, I'm afraid.
The advantages and disadvantages of pretending that you're bigger than you are.
Yes.
So the classic one is a sole trader, one person, one man band, but they always refer to a we in their website content. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I can see where it has benefits, but I would say that people these days, they're very savvy. They see through PR when, you know, people are doing a wonderful thing for charity, but you need to buy this, you know. They're not stupid. They don't want to be talked to or assume that they're stupid. I think being honest is one of the best traits a business can have. You know, say who you are, what your experience is, what you're doing, and by all means leave out the stuff that you're not so great at, or, you know, don't publish the complaints you've had or anything. But the fact is that everyone's going to have good and bad, and I think you just need to be as honest as you can. You know, I think sometimes there's a place, maybe it's just you're just a sole trader, but you work with enough other people on projects that you can say we. You know, and no one's ever really going to take you up on it. You know, okay, well, you're saying we on your website. How many of you are there exactly? You know, they're not probably that bothered, but I'd just be very careful, you know, how you write about yourself.
Do you think there are some instances where, like business-to-business relationships, for example, where you almost have to big yourself up in order to be taken seriously by companies that you're trying to progress to the level of?
To a degree, yes. But I mean, if I put myself as the example, I am a sole trader. I do partner with other people, but I've been into big pitches against marketing agencies, you know, where they've got 20, 30 people working for them. You know, why are they going to choose me? I'm more of a liability because it's just me. If I get sick, you know, what's going to happen? I think the point is that you need to address those concerns. It's how you present yourself, the experience that you can demonstrate and portray, and how you're going to deal and give them that reassurance, and then you're quite qualified to be pitching up against, you know, for the bigger business. But I think that if you go too far, you know, saying how big and great you are, and then there's potential to let that contract down, you're in deeper trouble.
You can be more flexible as a smaller enterprise as well.
More nimble, yeah.
Agile is a good word, isn't it? Agile.
You know, I totally get that, and I think there are a lot of companies out there that desperately feel that they need to present themselves in a bigger format. But I talk about me on my website, but then I might go in to a pitch and say, well, yes, it is just me, but I have all this other resource and expertise available or on board in another way, you know, not as an employee.
We've got one of our co-workers, he's part of the social media bureau,
Right.
and basically it's him and 5 other guys who got together.
Okay.
They've called themselves the social media bureau.
Bureau is quite old school.
Well, it depends what the market is.
Yeah.
So yeah, perception is half the battle, isn't it? But like you say, you don't want to cook it, otherwise you make promises you can't deliver.
Yeah.
Have you had any horror stories where people have done that and had to phoenix them from the
No, not personally. I haven't. No, but I'm sure there's plenty out there if you look. No.
Okay, is everyone done? Good. Thank you very much, Rachel. Good talk.